recorded.
Just looking at how many, how do we see how many people are in? Hello, everybody. Welcome. People are still coming in and joining in. You're more than welcome to say hi in the chat if you want, because I know you are muted, but if you want to say hello, everybody, feel free to say hi and introduce yourself. Where do you come from? Which part of England? Liverpool, excellent. Last year we had people from Brazil, which was fantastic with the time difference. That was interesting. Hi, Georgia from Liverpool. So do you teach French, Spanish? What language do you teach? Hi, from Giles from Bath. No, Susan. Sorry, Susan. Lovely to meet you. Please let us know. Spanish PGCE, fantastic, Georgia. Welcome. Are you enjoying it so far? Okay, just started teaching French. Okay. How's it going so far, the start of the PGCE? Yes, it is hard work. Imo, do you concur?
Yeah, this is the difficult part when you start teaching and your classes start to build up.
It's always a lot to take on, managing uni, managing classes. Okay, hello, Zhao from, where are you from, Zhao? You from?
I think you said at the top, Essex.
Essex. Oh, where about in Essex? I learned to teach in Brentwood, actually, in Essex. But I did my PGC in Chelmsford, so yeah, quite familiar. Southend, lovely. Nice. And you teach Spanish, I take it?
Yeah, it says it's Spanish ECT.
Okay, great. Fabulous. So we have a very few more people, and I think hi Chiyu, you are from East London, French and Mandarin. Oh, interesting. Good combination. Hi Lisa from Leeds, Trinity University. And what do you train to teach, Lisa?
Looks like we've got a mix of PGC and ECT.
Mix of PGC and ECTs and different languages. It's really interesting. French and Chinese. Very, very good. So we've had a few more people coming in, and I know that a lot of people will be watching online later. So welcome to those who are watching on catch up. You are very welcome to our talk today. Lisa, you are the course tutor. Oh, that's great. Fantastic. It's really good to see like the differences. And you're doing French, German, and Spanish. Great. Fantastic. Great. So I think we've got 30 people coming. So I think what we'll do is we'll make a start, and then if you join in halfway, we'll catch you up through the course. And then if you are at home watching nicely with a cup of tea on catch up, then you can enjoy and see. Sorry you can't take the poll, but hopefully you can enjoy the tips that we're going to give you today. So I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Juliette Claro. I'm assistant head teacher at Gumley House School. That's a very large, comprehensive Catholic girls' school in West London. But we don't actually select our students. We teach Chinese, French, Spanish, and Italian, and we also do Latin at GCSE. And my colleague, Imo, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone, my name's Imo Hamilton. So I'm the ECT here. I teach French and Spanish, and I also trained at Gumley last year, so I was very lucky to be able to stay on this year. And so hopefully I can understand what a lot of you are going through now, having very recently trained and probably in a similar situation to a lot of you now. So we're just going to share some of the experiences we've had, and hopefully we can all get some top tips out of this.
Yeah, and I think this is the main thing, is to share frustrations perhaps, or maybe tips, suggestions, and find ways to navigate this year of training to become a language teacher, and in different contexts from different parts of the country. So we'll see how we can actually manage all of this workload that we have. I teach French and Spanish, but I trained to teach German as well. It was 21 years ago, so it was a long, long time ago. But I still teach a lot, and I have and the 34 students in the classroom, so I do have the feeling, and I know exactly what you're going through. I teach GCSE, I teach A-level, so I have that compassion of understanding where you're coming from. So you probably started your course, feeling all full of beans, or maybe last year when you were doing your PGCE, and then you're now ACT, you're thinking, yeah, full of beans in September, and then you haven't even made it to Christmas, and you kind of feel like this little owl on the right-hand side, and you're feeling a little bit battered. I don't even think I can go to June. I don't even know how I'm going to go through to June, but hey ho. I think it's been a shock to the system being back face to face with students full time. And I think everybody is feeling the pressure a little bit. And we have pressure elsewhere. I mean, perhaps in universities, you have like these expectations of what the classroom looks like or sound like. Maybe your mentor or maybe your line manager, your head of department have like this idea of what display should look like. And the perfect classroom, like this lovely classroom with fantastic displays, perfect students, and then sometime you go and then this is what your classroom looks like. You're trying to manage everything, there's paper airplane flying around and you're thinking, I'm doing the wrong job, I can't do my job. And sometimes you can be a little bit kind of feeling a bit down because the students maybe are not responding to the planning, the amount of hours that you spend planning that lesson. And then sometimes you think, oh, why do I bother? But there's always a reason to bother, because teaching languages is the best. It's absolutely the best job ever for the culture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask all of you guys to take part in a little poll. We are going to look at engaging you with the early career framework. So if you are PGCE, just don't worry about it. Just type in the chat what you do. If you are an ECT, I'm going to launch a poll in a minute. Just tell us in the first question, which framework do you follow, if you know, or is it maybe your school does its own one, and any positive that you want to share with us, any drawbacks, maybe frustrations, and in the chat, if you are not an ECT, just what are you expecting to get from our session, so we make sure that me and Emo will really cover everything that you want to hear. So I'm just going to launch the poll now and go for it. Just tap along. I hope you can all see the poll. So the first question is, if you're on ECT, which framework are you using? That's kind of a simple question. And what are your positives so far? What are your frustrations? And what would you like to get out of this session? Okay. Can you all see the poll, by the way? Emo, can you see the poll?
I can say it.
You can, yeah?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, Lisa, so you have 5 trainees, Spanish, and 7 in French. Wow, that's amazing. You must have a very big department. How many people in your department?
That's university.
Ah, right. Oh, I see. Because I was thinking, oh my goodness, where do you place them all? Fab. Spanish and French is the popular one at the moment. Sadly, German is kind of going a bit not so popular. Local schools, okay. And they're all doing okay? What's your feedback so far, Lisa? Oh, yeah, I know. It is true. It is true. You're absolutely right. We have lost so many because of Brexit. Yeah. It's good, but it's good that they settled really well. Yeah. And Emo, you used to work for the British Council in the past, so you probably saw some changes as well with Brexit.
Yeah, lots of numbers of language assistants definitely going down, which is very sad.
Sad because of the visas and everything. It's so hard to get them
more complicated now.
So we have a lot of schools have their own. It's quite interesting, actually. Great. The positive aspect, I'm going to end the poll in a minute and I'm going to share the results with all of you so you can see what people have been saying. A lot of people are actually enjoying connecting with other colleagues, the connection and the networking, liking to have their own classes, fantastic. Frustration, the research, yes, a lot of research, the planning and the marking, definitely. Okay, so you are, Jared, am I pronouncing your name right, actually? How? You're doing your own one. So who is your provider, out of interest? That's interesting, actually. I'd like to see how school are doing it. That's actually quite a best practice network. Okay, lovely. And you enjoying it? Do you think it's good, or do you have lowlights, frustrations, or is everything perfect? So as you can see, a few of us are not ACTs, but they're just training, and we are just training, getting onto the training, having on my own classes. It's a nice thing to have your own classes, definitely. Yeah, frustrations. Frustration. Let's share the frustrations so far. Planning and marking. Does it get better, Imo?
I think it does, yeah. I think you work out. I certainly made a mistake at the beginning of setting lots of homeworks and wanting them to do all this work at home, and then realised I had to mark it all. So I've started setting homeworks which I don't have to mark as much, like scheduling Kahoot homeworks and things, so you can get numbers and statistics, but you don't have to sit and spend hours marking.
Absolutely. And it is true. This is the problem, is trying to find the right balance between planning and marking. So yes, and the language gym, for example, this is exactly what we're going to talk about, is how to make homework manageable for us as language teachers. And then you hear the maths department and they say, oh, they do it all on Maths Watch. And you go, great, we don't have Maths Watch. But we have the language gym and we have Seneca Learning, and it's lots of different platforms that we can use that can make our life a little bit easier. So a couple of tips, and I know sometimes we get bummed out by the planning, but these are the suggestions that I would say. It is meant to be a fun experience, and languages are supposed to be a cultural experience. And I'm not sure what your curriculum intent is in your department. Of course you will. Yes, so Sonia, you will have the copy of the slides, absolutely. You will find that a lot of your curriculum intent, everything is based on schemes of work, and I have to go through my content. But if it's not fun for the kids, it's not going to work. So a couple of things that we really love to do here at Gumley, and I know that Imo, you do a lot of that, and maybe you can talk about the things that you have done that your students have enjoyed. Try to make your language lesson as much real as possible and realistic, enjoying connecting with celebrities, real people that they're enjoying. Making videos for homework is fantastic. I will talk about this in my next talk, about how you can actually get students to record themselves, do their own homework. It saves you a lot of marking and a lot of speaking assessments in the classroom when you have 34 and you can't really manage everything at the same time. So alternating like the speaking assessment in the classroom and maybe some at home might be a nice way to kind of find a nice pattern and a nice pace with the homework. Film clubs, and teach them some slang. Always like to be of slang. They do that, and especially yesterday we were doing that with Year 12 and they really enjoy that. Making sure that you always go back to the global aspect of teaching languages, and you will enjoy it too, especially after Brexit. We were talking about that. It's important, especially if we are in parts of England where languages are not very popular, if we can actually make the language learning as global as possible, and actually going off the textbook a little bit, trying to stay away from the textbook, but make experiences that are from subject realistic topics that would make it much better for them and more enjoyable. Imo, do you want to share some ideas of what you've done with your classes that worked and made very low prep?
Yes. One of my main ones is I try and use music quite a lot, because I particularly am quite into Spanish music. So I, particularly if I'm teaching grammar, will try and find a song which has got lots of examples of that particular grammar point in, and then I blank them out or put them in a box and they have to fill in the blanks or find the example of the piece of grammar that I'm showing. So I would print out the lyrics for them. And And I use a website quite a lot called lyricstraining.com, which has got lots of different French, Spanish, German. It's all got all sorts of languages on there. And you show them the music video and they just find something quite special about watching an actual French music video or something like that. And I set them homeworks on there as well. I say, pick one Spanish song and tell me 10 words that you've learned from it. It's not necessarily related to our topic, but it's just trying to spark a bit of interest in something which isn't the UK top 40. And when we did learning about schools, I got them to do promotional videos of the school. So they were walking around the school filming sort of, hola, esto es Gumley. And then we're doing videos with their friends about all the vocab they've learned about classrooms and the playground and favourite subjects and things. So those are two of the things that they've really enjoyed. And I will put the website in the chat now for the music video.
Yeah, I'm just typing as you're talking, so. Yeah, and the good thing about lyricstraining.com is they love it from beginners, and then you can choose beginners, intermediate, and advanced, and it doesn't have to be linked with the topic that you're teaching at the moment. So the thing is, sometimes especially if you're training and you have a scheme of work and you have to keep going with your scheme of work, you might find, well, I'm teaching chores at the moment, right? I'm teaching cleaning the room and I'm doing the dishes, and it's not the most fun, topic to teach at the moment, but you might want to, spark up a little bit with giving them a parallel homework and something quite enjoyable. And they might say, Miss, can we do this next lesson? And then you can actually incorporate that in your lesson. Oh, Lyrica, yes, that's the nice one.
Lyrica is another one. That's more sort of the song's broken down and you do a lesson on it, but it's got quite good cultural tips, a sort of did you know section, and it will tell you something interesting that Shakira have done or CNCO, and so you learn also about the bands and the singers as well as just the music.
Mm-hmm. And that is definitely about the engagement, isn't it? Engaging them. So they might not really like Spanish, they might not really like the language, but that is definitely going to get them interested to do something a bit different. You can really kind of get them to eat in your hand by actually using that as a carrot. We can do a little bit of lyrics.com at the end, or we can watch a clip, or even starting your lesson as they come into the classroom, having the music in just to settle them, and then you can start your retrieval practice and your do it now activity just by having some Spanish music. And then they say, oh, I've heard that song before, Miss, where is that from? And I say, oh, that's interesting. And then you can kind of get them in, through music, because that's how you get the young people these days, is through music. And the thing is, we used to have celebrities, but now it's so difficult to find who they like, because they've watched stuff on SoundCloud or, Snapchat or TikTok. And for us adults, it's difficult to keep up with who they like. But the good thing is music is universal, and that always stays.
I also use Disney a little bit. So I put on something from Moana or Frozen or one of the well-known songs like Let It Go, but would put it on in French or Spanish. So they recognize it and they're like, oh, it's Moana in French. And that's, again, just something a bit different that gets them looking at the board and interested, rather than when they come in, rather than sort of being half asleep on a Monday morning.
Yeah. Definitely. And film clubs, if you don't have time to do films in your subject, in your time in your lesson, because of so many different factors, I would always recommend to think about what film would match best with my topic that I'm teaching. So if I'm teaching school, I would probably try to use Entre les Murs. Might be a bit hard to show the whole film to a bunch of year 8s, but you can select some clips from YouTube and just get them to do an activity where they do phonics. So you might have the transcript, and then they have to find the word that's missing in the dialogue between the characters, and they're talking about the subject. So you can really select really short clips, and that will also get them very interested. And then they say, oh, Miss, can we watch the whole film? And if you say, well, we haven't got time, but if you come to French club, we can watch the film. And that you get them to eat languages and actually want to come to your languages lesson a little bit more. And at the moment, I think today the French club, we have all year 12 actually and 13 running the French club, and they were watching Kirikou and all sorts of films together. I think today might be quite interesting, Imo. I think they were planning to do a game with them. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but yeah. So get your year 12 and 13 to get involved in a film club perhaps, and get them to choose what they want to see, whether it's a Disney film with, in Spanish or in French. That might help them to actually, again, engaging them with languages for life and culture. Amy, is there anything we forgot on this one?
No, I think we covered it all.
I mean, behavior, I mean, I know that behavior came into the poll as well. And I think my main tip I would say is to all, obviously you probably have had lots of training about behavior management in your school, and I'm not going to go through all of that again, but the main thing is to build the relationships with your students. And parental engagement is super key. And I know at the beginning of the year, it's like, oh, I've got to call these parents. I've got so many to call. But once you've done it once or twice, generally they don't like you calling home. But if you call them for a good thing, you know, and you say, well, you know, if you carry on working really well, I will call dad to say that you've done really well. That gives them as well this incentive of actually working with you. So parental engagement, it's really key. And a lot of parents don't know how to help their child in languages. You might have a conversation with parents and they will say on the phone, you know, I was rubbish at French at school, you know, I can't do French, she can't do French, that's it, you know. And this is where you engage, say, yeah, it's difficult, how about we try this, how about we try, and then you give them these websites, give them access to the website so they can see what they can do. And then they say, oh, I wish I did better at French, you know, I wish I listened more in class and stuff. But, and then you can engage with the parents, because quite often they're resistant because the parent themselves don't know how to help with languages. They might know how to help with maths and English, but languages generally, they find it really difficult. So engaging with them and talking to them on the phone if you can, and help them, give them tips on how to support their child, actually get you on their side as well. So if you get the parents, you get the children as well. So win-win for everybody. Okay, so motivation and engagement, that's the main thing that sometimes gets new teachers quite a little bit bogged down. So routines are important, and how you start your lesson is really important. And for us at Gumley, we have a policy where the students line up outside. You can have a bit of music as you let them in. I don't know how your policy at school works, but it might be useful to have the same routine for all your classes. Because we are a Catholic school, we do a prayer, but we do a prayer in target language. So if you're not a Catholic school, you might have a routine where you might want to say something in French or something in Spanish. I was teaching in East London before in a non-Catholic school, and all my lessons started by, you know, saying bonjour madame, ça va bien, and then they all repeated the same thing. So at the beginning, you have that always the moment where everybody's standing still and saying this routine in French, je peux enlever ma veste, and they all say the same thing. So that settles them, then they can sit down and then you can do up with your do now, your retrieval practice or your startup activity. Imo, do you have anything about routines that you have put in place through time?
Yeah, and it also links in with your praise one. So part of the Gumley routine is you do the prayer and then you ask a few people how they are. You say "Cómo estás" or "Ça va," and they tell you how they are. Then you ask someone what the weather is, and then you ask someone what the date is. And then I've also started adding in as a new part of routine, which links in with the one about praise. I have a star of the day, and it's somebody in the class who has been particularly good, or often it's just somebody who's been working really quietly but gets overshadowed by the noisier kids, and I just want to make them know that I am recognizing, and I also give them what we have is an achievement point. And so my final slide of my routine is always my star of the day. So I always have my estrella del día or étoile du jour, and I always put their name up, kind of have their name up in lights. Everyone gives me a little round of applause. And then it's also a really good way to remind them I'm looking for my next star of the day. So everyone sort of sits up a bit taller and has a good intention for the start of the lesson. It's sort of a little dangling the carrot to try and get them all to behave in that lesson there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And praise. If you look down, it's all about getting them to love coming through that door. They want to come through that door because they feel loved. As children, they love going to languages because it's the language lesson, but also because they know the teachers care and they are enjoying being in that room. So even year 13 love a sticker. They do love a bit of a sticker. And all stamps.
A box of sweets in my drawer, so that when you do your game at the end, the winner always has a sweet.
Or you might have a healthy school. If you're a healthy school and you're not allowed to give crisps or chocolate, just give them stickers. You don't know how much they would do for a sticker or a stamp or something. But yeah, praising. And you know, it's interesting because we did a learner voice this week, And I was talking to year 9, and one of the group I was with, they were talking about how they can improve lessons in different subjects. And it was nothing related generally to languages. It was more generic about the school. And the students were saying, well, I find it difficult in that subject. And I said, oh, why is that? And they say, the teacher doesn't like me. And I say, well, there's not one teacher that gets up in the morning and say, oh, I've got to teach that child again. It doesn't happen like that. This doesn't work like this. We all love our students equally the same. And they say, oh, well, Miss always picks on me. And I said, well, good. That means she wants you to do well. So sometimes, it's having that conversation about, I'd pick on you for the good cause because I think you can do better and you can do well. So if you have this conversation, it's always turning and flip it. In the sense that I care about you and I want you to do well. And as soon as you can praise, then you praise. And a good phone call home is definitely the thing that would make students really want to improve or be estrella del dia. That's definitely something that they will work for. And one thing I would say is you're never going to move around the classroom enough in one lesson, because you will pick a lot of the things they do in their book, and that is worth praising, because the quiet ones will get on with it, and sometimes you don't see it unless you walk around and you see what they're doing. So when they're doing an activity, really go for the quiet ones and see, oh, that's actually really interesting what you're writing down here. Get them to move around the classroom. Running translation, I don't know if you've been using these, if you're allowed to do that, because I know some schools not allowing students to move around very much. But it does work. Like Emo was saying, doing a video when across the school, doing a treasure hunt, an egg search Easter, or sometimes you teach directions, go and find directions in the school and do a treasure hunt. Surveys, go and ask teachers or any members of staff around the school, any questions with a clipboard, and they go in pairs. Getting them out of their seat basically and do things from the lesson where they are actually active, especially if you have ADHD students and students who really find it hard to sit on the seat. That might actually engage them and give them responsibility. You can be that, you keep the tally, you are responsible to giving out all of these things in the classroom. So that really get them going. And obviously cultural activity is always a win. There will never be one child who will not be interested in food. So if you have a difficult class, make them cook, make them do a fruit salad even, because that doesn't even require a kitchen. You can get them to do a fruit salad in the classroom without having to kill each other with sharp knives. They can do that with very little knives. So I remember a very difficult year 11 class with lots of boys, and I got into les fruits du dragon, la salade de fruits exotiques. And when I got into with all these exotic fruits, turns out that half of them had never seen a strawberry in their life, because they were so coming from a deprived background that they had never seen a strawberry. And, les fraises, and one of them said, is that a strawberry? And, it's that interesting that you actually start getting to know a little bit better about those students. So la salade de fruits exotiques is actually quite an easy one to do in the classroom and relatively mess-free as well. Any other ideas, motivations, and engagement that you would share, Emo?
I would also I think it's worth saying, going back to the praise, that something we do here is that you get a French or a Spanish point, a punto or un point, pretty much just for putting your hand up and having a go. You might, it might be absolute rubbish, but I still say, thank you so much, un punto. And they keep a little tally on their back page of the number of puntos they've got, and when they reach 10 they come and tell me and they get a sticker or an achievement point. And particularly with the younger years, it's really good just to get them to have a go. They all want to tell me the date and the weather today because they know they get a punto for it, so that one's really motivational.
And if you have a police, sorry, go on.
I was just then going to say about running translation, so that if you can't do getting up and going to the teacher or going to the other side of the room, I do it with mini whiteboards and get them just to hold it up. So I move around and I will go to their mini whiteboard and say, yes, that's right, you can go on to the next sentence or correct this here. And I think just, even if they're not moving, they're not sat writing their book, they're doing something a bit different. And just the act of writing on a mini whiteboard can be quite exciting. And so for the kids who do find it quite difficult to concentrate, that's quite a fast-paced activity, which works well.
And it's interesting because coming back to mini whiteboard, I have a girl in year 11 who is a school refuser. She doesn't want to come to school. COVID has had a terrible effect on her life. And in fact, we are quite concerned about her, but she's a bit like a cat. So when she doesn't want to come to many lessons, but she does come to French. She likes French, but she's a bit like a cat. So sometimes I give her different options. You know, what a cat, you would say, do you want Sheba today? Would you like whiskers today? So sometimes I give her a little like a range of choices of activities. And if I give her a mini whiteboard to do, she will always go for that. And if I said to her to write a paragraph about herself, about her pets, she loves animals, she will write anything because it's low stakes. She doesn't feel pressurized to do it. And like you said, Ivo, something a bit different. So she writes long paragraphs, and I have sentence builders on next to her, so she can actually feel she can connect sentences together. So that builds her confidence, and I give her the choice. So do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And having her right next to me with a selection, a menu of activity that she can do, actually get her to stay in the classroom. And she's in school. When that happens, she's not actually at home doing things she shouldn't be doing. So it's having that relationship and actually praising them for what they do. That's really, really important. And the puntos, oh my God, they're running for their puntos. And I know we have a colleague who does it with 2 sides of the class as well, and they're coloring in. So like équipe A and équipe B.
I do that.
You do that as well. I can't keep up with it, but do you want
to into team 1 and team 2, and on the notice board by the door I've got an identical picture of I think one of them is somebody making a crepe, and it's got like crepe breton over the top, and it's just got little sections that you can color in. So there's 2 halves of it. It's the same picture printed twice, and if they use any kind of target language like j'ai fini, it's like, oh, that's a point for your team. And I just keep a tally on the board of team 1 and team 2. And the team at the end of the lesson who's used the most amount of target language, who's got the most points, gets to colour in a little section of their picture. I'm sure we can put some on, we can share some examples of the pictures.
We'll put them on the drive, yeah.
And so basically it's a race to try and colour in their picture faster than the other team, and the team who does it quickest gets some kind of prize at the end of term.
Yeah, so I know how Caroline does it. She at the end of each term, whichever picture is the most colored in, they get like a box of celebration to share between that team, and then they keep going. So until Easter, they need to catch up. So they have to catch up with each other. So I'm actually useless at this. I can't keep up the tally on the board. That's something my brain can't do it. But you're brilliant at doing that. So if you are allowed to do this sort of thing, you may be in a school where you have a no hand up policy. If that is the case, then when you do your call out, just give the puntos to the people who talk to you, and that's actually another way to do it, trying to make it even between the two sides of the classroom, because some schools do have that policy. Okay, so other things that could help you, time management tricks. This is the big thing. We're talking about planning and marking here. So a couple of things that might make your life a little bit easy. I would say plan your lesson as you finish them. I find that much easier. So if I have a class 3 times in a week, I would plan my next week in 3. I plan my 3 lesson. And then what happens is at the end of my first lesson, so if I see them on the Monday, I will maybe tweak a little bit the lesson I have planned for the Tuesday, because I might have covered more, or maybe I need to review something I haven't quite understood, but at least the canvas is there. I know exactly where I'm going that week with that team, with that class. Otherwise, if I just do it on a day-to-day basis, I just lose track because I've got so many classes. I just feel like, oh, what did I do with that year 8 class? And sometimes I have 3 year 8 classes and I'm not quite sure where I was. So I try to plan a chunk. I chunk it and I do a week, and then I adjust it week by week. And I try to do that the day I have them, if I can. So if my last lesson with year 8 is on Thursday, I will try to plan my block of 3 lessons that Thursday or that Friday evening or something. So then in the weekend, if I do it the weekend, I forgot. I'm like, what did I do with year 8 again? So I tend to have a very short span memory. So I need to kind of organize myself to do it. And then I share everything on the drive. So we have this massive drive with lots of resources from all of us. And sometimes you might find that my colleague has got a lesson on chores, and I hate teaching chores. It's one of my worst topic ever, but I know that my colleague Lucy might have a fantastic lesson. So I might just go in there, but I can't just take her class, her lesson, because we are different human beings and everybody has their teaching style. So I might just tweak it a little bit, just go through, and I will save it under my initials. So I know that there is Lucy's version, but there's also the Juliet version. So then I can't teach the way she teaches all the time. So we have to kind of adjust, but that's the way we manage to avoid having to plan all the time and try to reinvent the wheel all the time. Imo, how do you manage that? Because as an ECT, you've kind of started to block your lessons into folders. So how do you manage your planning?
Yeah, so what I try and do is, I mean, I would love to be sort of 3 days ahead, 4 or 5 days ahead, but in reality now I am just a day ahead, because going from being a trainee where you'd only have a few lessons a week, you could spend an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours on one lesson and making it absolutely beautiful. And so you have a bit of a shock. I'm sure a lot of you have experienced it already. You have a bit of a shock in September when you have more than double what you were doing as a trainee, and you can't be spending that kind of time on it. So you have to learn to, and I'm not very good at this. I put my hand up and say I'm still not very good at just saying, okay, that's good enough. But you need to sort of have an idea of, I'm going to do this listening, that reading, and I'm going to end with this game. And the bits in between, you sort of have to learn to think on your feet a bit faster, because as much as I would love to have an absolutely perfect PowerPoint for every single lesson, it doesn't always happen. And also planning weeks or days or weeks ahead often doesn't work, because as Juliet says, you might not get through what you thought you would, and they might not understand it. So I was thinking, oh, I'm going to spend my summer holiday, I'm going to have the next 5 weeks sorted, but that's actually counterproductive, and you would waste your time, because you don't really know what works, and you soon understand what class is like, and they'll be like, Miss, can we do that game again? So you know that with that group you always do that game because that's what they like. So I would say try and be a bit more reactive, and don't plan days and days ahead, because well, I certainly don't have the time. It might work for some people, but I find it's a bit easier to do it closer to
planning, so it's manageable. So save time with Fleur and Ellie and Shelley. So if sometimes you're teaching grammar and you're looking for resources for French, so you want to teach the direct object pronoun or something random like this for your 12th class, and you're very new to A level, or maybe you want to teach something about le passé composé avec être, for example, and you're a bit short of ideas, just type it in Google and then just type FLE next to it. And there's thousands of teachers who teach French as a foreign language who will have done lots of resources with songs, with clips, with worksheets, PowerPoints, and then just go and steal them. Just go and take them. So FLE is for French, Elle is for Spanish, Celli is for Italian, and the Goethe Institute, obviously for German, have loads of stuff as well. But this is basically the worldwide bank of resources from the native speakers who teach their language abroad. And there's loads of things that you can find. And I put my hand up, I use it all the time, because they are fantastic resources for French teachers in Brazil who teach French as a foreign language, and they have great ideas for grammar and resources. So you just basically browse and find something, and then you will find a worksheet that you won't have to plan, because it's already there for you. And it's easy, it's very easy to find. Just Google whatever you want and just type Elle next to it, and then you'll find there's lots of stuff. I would also say self-assessment, peer assessment, address misconception in real time. Don't mark everything. There's no point marking listening, reading, even like reading assessments. What's the point of marking reading assessment? It's true or false, not mentioned. If you mark it with the class, then you can address misconception, you can address misunderstanding there and then. You're cutting down your marking. In fact, most of my marking is mainly speaking, recording, and writing. But everything that's listening, vocabulary, and grammar, or reading, I try to mark with the students and make them understand that if it's wrong, it's okay to be wrong. It's fine. Making mistakes is healthy. They don't cheat. There's no need for cheating. I just want to know how you're getting on, you know, and if you get it wrong, why did you get it wrong? And that comes back to my next talk that I do a bit later about metacognition, is to get them used to understand that making mistake is okay. and then you want to help them not to make that mistake again. So translation, get them to mark their own translation themselves, and give them the mark scheme. So then very quickly they know what's acceptable in terms of spelling and accents and what's not acceptable. And then every now and then they ask me, I wrote this, that's what I meant. Yeah, that's what you meant, but is this what you want? No, okay, but it's wrong then. And then why is it wrong? And explain to them why it's wrong. And obviously using marking grids for writing, you may have them in your department already, but they are a godsend. I will share that with you in a second. 2 little extension for your Google Chrome to have that will save your life. One is Mote, that is right here, and Loom, if you don't have them. Mote allows you to record your voice. So you basically go on Google, on your Google Chrome bar, and you just type Mote extension for Chrome, and then you add it to your extension. And then every time your students will upload something onto your either whether it's Google Classroom or whatever platform that you're using, maybe it's Teams Classroom, they have also a little app for that. You just record yourself, and then you can just say, oh, c'est très bien, mais attention la prononciation, and then you can correct the pronunciation live. And you don't need to type for hours. You can just basically record it.
Best one about it is that the voice notes are 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So I give myself one attempt.
Yeah.
30 seconds per student. So you have to move on after 30 seconds.
And that's why it's good, because then you can only record 30 seconds for free. You can upgrade for the premium, but the free version is 30 seconds. So you have to be very quick and short, and that makes you mark 30 kids very, very quickly. And then if it's specifically pronunciation, it actually helps you to pronounce the word for them loud and clear. And then in your starter activity, the next lesson, I would say, if you take your device, whatever device they have in lessons, and listen to my feedback and write it in green pen, make the yellow box where they write their feedback, and then they make a note of that themselves. And the Loom extension, same thing, go on to Loom and just type Loom extension for Chrome and add the extension to your little Chrome bar. And then with that, you can record your screen. And that might help you to do intervention with students who don't understand something about the past participle or a point of grammar that they found difficult. Well, I always say to the students, do you want me to explain this again at the end? Do you want me to go through that again? And they go, facile, oh, difficile, nah. If I get lots of, generally what I do is I will record a quick Loom. So it's me, not a YouTube clip. It's me explaining it again. And I just take my PowerPoint, my lesson, and I just talk for that slide again for like maybe 3 minutes. And I share that link on my Google Classroom or my Team Classroom, my Teams or whatever, so the kids can watch it again in real time. But I'm not planning anything. I'm not doing intervention after school. I'm just basically recording my voice for 3 minutes over the slide again, and that actually helps them to brush up something they haven't understood. Imo, anything you want to add on that?
No, I think I've covered everything there.
Yeah. So that's time management, and try to make things a little bit easier. And we were talking about, the language gym. Use all of these tools. These tools are fantastic. And if you hear a maths teacher say, oh, it's all on Maths Watch, and then you panic because you think, I don't have Maths Watch. We have loads of things for languages that allow us to cut our marking. So vocab tests, you can do that on Quizlet. You can do lots of things with Duolingo and Seneca Learning. You can set them assignments. It's all free. You basically go on Seneca Learning, create your account, then you can create your classes, and then you basically share the link with them. And then you can set them assignments. So you have to basically choose the course. Do you want to do Quizlet Spanish, or maybe you want to do AQA Spanish, Edexcel Spanish? It's all very well done, and all by topics and grammar points. So you can set them assignments and you have no marking to do. So that is a nice way of really gaining time in your planning, and really be selective on the things that you're marking. No marking feedback. This is my thing. I try as much as possible to use questioning in the classroom. And that's my next talk about why. Why is this the right answer? Tell me why. And what if I do this? What if I add an S at the end of mangerait? What would that be? And I'm just connecting all the time, whether they understand or retrieve prior knowledge. I do that as in second nature, but I think the more question you use in the classroom and the more you move around the classroom, the less marking you need to do, because you will see the exercise book, you see who's got problem with copying from the board, who has problem with basically just write the date and start the exercise. That just becomes something that you would do. Something that I do as well is highlight in colors. So instead of marking, I highlight in one color the good things, and I would highlight in a different color where they've made mistakes, and I just give it back to them. And then I do a whole class feedback, and I will say, right, the good thing about today, you've all done that very well, but you've all made some mistakes here, so let's go through that again. And then when they get it back, they know if I've highlighted something in pink, it means it's wrong and they have to correct it themselves. But I don't have codes for that particular thing. I don't write SB or GR, I just highlight. And then I just give it back to them and I just make them correct it without me. So that actually cuts my marking as well. So a couple of things to open your practice. Things that would really help you is to go and see other people in other lessons. I would strongly recommend you go and see a drama lesson if you haven't seen one. It's bonkers, but you will really see how they manage practical and kids moving around. And basically go and teach, go and see other colleagues teaching other things like especially literacy, how you teach literacy in terms of grammar. English departments don't teach grammar the way we teach grammar. So when you see an English language lesson, you'll understand why they haven't got a clue about comparatives and superlatives and that sort of thing. So it might be useful to go and see one of your English colleagues for an English language lesson, or perhaps a drama lesson to see how the dynamics work differently, especially with difficult students. If you have a kid who really doesn't like to be in your classroom, go and see them in a lesson where they like to be there. And what is it about that subject that they like? And then you can really kind of catch them and try to get it on their side a little bit. What is that teacher's doing to catch their attention? There's lots of things online out there, and I really strongly recommend that you keep your minds open and read as much as possible. There's lots of edu Twitter out there, so I'm going to share a few with you. I'm going to go back to that in a minute. But these are my grid. You can have them. I will put that on the folder. This is how I do full class feedback, how we do marking without breaking our life and having some life at the end. And there was this bit I wanted to show you. So these are the edu Twitter. Useful reading, obviously, Gianfranco Conti, the language teacher toolkit, absolutely a Bible, but also making every MFL lesson count. Really easy to read. You can have it with a cup of tea, put it away and just look at different chapters. But what makes students enjoy languages? That's a really good book. And a couple of selection of languages specific Twitter page to follow, people to follow that are really interesting, that you might find useful. And I'm going to go back to, this is the whole class feedback, which you can borrow if you want. So what I do is I highlight things and then I just say, this went well, these are the issues, these are your misconceptions as a class, now go and improve it. And I don't mark as much in detail, I just make it very vague. So it takes me maybe 20 minutes to mark 34 students because I do it very, very quickly. But I also going to pick where is the major misconception across the class, what is the big problem? And quite often when you address that, everything moves very smoothly. Quite often you actually get students to understand the problem. Imo, do you want to talk about work-life balance? Because you are quite good at that.
Yeah, I think one of the main things is do not be that person who is still planning at 10 o'clock at night, because it will just make you miserable. You will be tired and you won't be doing your best stuff. You just won't be very efficient. I try and be really strict with myself, that I know on a Monday I play tennis and Tuesday is my netball night and nothing comes in the way of that. You know, whether I've got the lesson done or not, I'll have to do it first thing in the morning because those are my priorities. And it's just so important because it's an hour, 2 hours where I'm not thinking about anything. And it's really good to clear your head a bit as well. One of the main things I think about work-life balance is don't be too hard on yourself, and remember that, you know, I am a qualified teacher now, but I've been doing this 7-8 weeks and it's still a new job. And what's really hard to remember is that you are very new, and you go from being a trainee where you have somebody with you in every single lesson, you don't do anything by yourself, to having a full-time table and you're by yourself. And because of the responsibility that's given to you so quickly, you just assume that you're going to be like all the other teachers who know what they're doing. But the reality is that that it does take time to get used to it, and I do things wrong and I make mistakes and I learn stuff every day and think, right, well, I won't be doing that again because that doesn't work. But you also have some moments where you have real highs and you think, definitely, I'll be using that again. So between the highs and the lows, try and remember that you are still learning, and don't be really hard on yourself, because being a new teacher is challenging, but I can promise you one thing, it's definitely not boring, and you'll keep changing and learning every single day. And I do try and get out of my classroom and go to the staff centre. Somebody said to me, when you're a new teacher, it's really hard to just keep working and work through your lunchtime and work through your break time. But it is quite refreshing to go to the staff centre or your staff room and you say something and someone else says, oh yes, I'm having that same problem with that same student. And it just makes you feel a bit better that you're not the only one and everybody is in the same boat and it's not just you as a new teacher. So do try and get out and of your classroom and meet other people.
And the pub.
And the pub, yes, as well. Join the Friday evening trips if anyone goes. The weekend dilemma. Yeah, this one I'm always sort of like, do I work at the weekend, don't I? I do have quite a busy Monday, so I do have to do some work at the weekend, but I try and say it's going to be 2 hours on a Saturday morning. I do it and then it's done. And I also try and set a timer so that I know that I've got 20 minutes to plan this lesson, and once that time has gone off, that's it. And then you set another 20 minutes and you've got the next lesson, so that you can't do the thing that you do as a trainee and sit there for hours panicking about it. You've got 20 minutes and then you move on. So it's so easy to break all these rules, and I do it as well, but you've got to try and put some boundaries in and just kind of protect yourself, because otherwise you just sort of get swallowed up by it. But at the end of the day, it is very enjoyable, so long as you set limits for yourself.
Okay, I hope you find the session useful with some of the ideas. All of these templates are on the slide, so you can copy them and download them. I will put the actual template for you to use if you want, and I will share my folder with everything. So if you have any question, I'm going to put my email and Emo's email again at the beginning. So then if you want to email me, or email Emo, feel free to do that. This is my email here and Emo's email. So we were very, very happy to meet you all, and good luck, all the best, and hopefully we will be in touch very soon. Just please get in touch with us so we can get into the community and learn together. Thank you so, so much. Take care and good luck.
Brilliant, Juliet. Thank you so much. I'm going to end the session now, but well done.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.